you effectively are making an argument around 5G in 2020.
Yes.
But you're also making the argument that you think that this year may be one of the weakest sales cycles in terms of iPhones in its history.
Yes. And I think, frankly, probably both of those are somewhat understood by the markets. People know 5G is coming next year. People know this year is being weak. What gave us conviction to make the call now is some data that's led us to believe that we'll see a wider adoption of 5G across the product line. And it's different than what would have happened 3 months ago. And the change was that Apple signed that agreement with Qualcomm to allow use of the Qualcomm modem. So that provides better performance, better power consumption, which is given the technical ability to bring it more broadly in the product line.
Why are you convinced that 5G is going to happen in 2020? Because there's a lot of channel checks out there in terms of what Verizon's doing, what AT&T is doing, how much coverage they're actually going to be able to manage even in the next 2 years.
And when I think the difference between 4G and 5G is that 4G, people were waiting for 4G to get to your neighborhood before you bought a 4G phone. For 5G, 5G coverage is not going to be ubiquitous for some time, and it doesn't really need to be, because in the suburbs the 4G signal is going to be fine. It's not very congested. Outside this building, you're going to have benefit from a 5G phone because you're going to get bandwidth and coverage where it's real congested. It's the only way that the carriers are going to be able to deliver the bandwidth in congested areas.
This is the part that I don't understand about your argument around 2020. 2021, I might go along with you on. Right. But my mother lives in the suburbs. Why is she going to upgrade her phone if she has a good enough phone, as they say, right? And the actual interaction with the phone is not going to be that different except for the speed, unless you think there's some other great innovation coming. But let's assume it's basically the same phone, just a speed situation. Right. If she's in the suburbs and she comes to New York, but she's not hanging out in Times Square every single morning like this, why is she going to necessarily need to upgrade?
And she may not. But what's important is the rate of change. The issue that Apple has now, and again, why we think this coming cycle and this fall is going to be one of the weakest upgrade cycles ever, is because people are tending to buy the older phones, is because this year's upgrade cycle is not going to be as compelling. People are going to buy iPhone 8s and iPhone 7s. So what you're going to see is, and our estimates for fall of 2020 is that 5G would only be 40% of the new iPhones. Because you're not going to, like somewhere in Western Europe, there's going to be no 5G available. They're not going to make it available there. But there's a change. And so what happens is the mix of new phones to old phones gets a lot better. In fact, our units are only back to where they were 2 years ago. Right.
Very, very quickly, 5G coverage. What % of the United States do you believe will be covered by 5G in 2020?
Yeah, I don't
End of 2020 when this new phone comes out.
It's a small percentage. But
I hope you've modeled that out into this. So what's the number?
Yeah, I don't have the number off the top of my head. But
is it 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%? Ballpark it.
Yeah, it's probably in the area of 10, 20% or so. But it's in the most congested areas. Right. So it's where at a sports stadium, you're at a Giants game, you want to be able to get a signal.